Hey, how's it going? In today's video, I'm talking about Boruto, and more specifically, I wanted to discuss a particular topic. Does it make sense for Boruto to want to spare Kawaki? Kawaki, from my point of view, is not a good person. Some may even go as far as to classify him as a monster. Some, like myself, will call him a hypocrite. Some may even say he is misunderstood and that he is using drastic measures to protect the things he loves. However you feel about Kawaki, we cannot deny he is a product of his environment and the relationships he's had throughout his life. But in today's video, we're analyzing Kawaki from Boruto's perspective. This video will contain spoilers for Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. You have been warned. With that being said, let's get started. Boruto and Kawaki did not get along at the beginning. Kawaki naturally didn't trust people due to his upbringing with Kara, and prior to that being around an abusive father. People throughout Kawaki's life didn't accept him in a healthy way. Kawaki, before arriving in the Leaf, was only valued in as much as he could provide himself to others. Kawaki's biological father only valued him in as much as he could work and earn money to satisfy his alcohol addiction. Jigen or Isshiki only valued Kawaki because he was genetically compatible and had the potential to become the perfect vessel. Amato only valued him in as much as Kawaki was the key to bringing his daughter back to life. Even Ada, if she did not cast omnipotence where people are artificially attracted to her, would she still like Kawaki, the Otsutsuki? Maybe, but the likelihood would be a lot lower. Everyone always wanted something from Kawaki, and if he didn't deliver on those things, people would hurt him. Kawaki, like Naruto, didn't have anything at the beginning of his story. Boruto, on the other hand, had everything: parents, a sister, a nice home, and plenty of friends. He genuinely had a good life. Like Kawaki, Boruto is a product of his environment, and his relationships shaped the person he is today. Boruto values people because that's what his parents instilled in him. Boruto has a will of fire because that's what he inherited from his fellow shinobi. Although he couldn't fully appreciate his life at the time during the beginning of his story because he had anger that stemmed from his father always working as the Hokage and never being there fully for his family. Because he didn't have a reference for what it was like for Naruto or even Kawaki growing up, he couldn't appreciate the fact that he had a father who at least cared about him and a mother and sister around. Sometimes it is only when we go through trials and tribulations can we truly appreciate the good things we have around us. Kawaki and Boruto, coming from different walks of life, only naturally led them to ending up in conflict with each other when they first met. And why wouldn't they be in conflict? Kawaki grew up believing that trusting people is what will lead them into using you until there's nothing left. Boruto, on the other hand, grew up with being instilled with the idea that bonds and connections are what make people strong. So the very idea of Kawaki's mindset was foreign to him. What bonded the two of them together was the fact that they both had the karma, a power they both initially hated, viewing it as a curse. Momoshiki had given Boruto a terrible prophecy and a mysterious but deadly new seal that he knew nothing about. Put yourself in Boruto's shoes, and a parasitic alien gave you a prophecy like that. You would feel very uncomfortable about the situation. Boruto had no one to relate to on this issue until he met Kawaki. Kawaki was also the one who told Boruto the name of the karma seal in the first place. Their mutual hatred for the karma had bonded them together almost like brothers. Boruto and Kawaki made a promise to each other that they would get rid of each other's karmas. Hold that thought because it's going to come up much later in the video. After Kawaki spent some time around the Uzumaki's household, Boruto got to see firsthand that Kawaki wasn't that bad after all. He got to see that Kawaki did have the capacity to care for other people. Even though Kawaki broke Himawari's vase on a tangent, he went out of his way to fix it, which many have pointed out that this was a metaphor for Kawaki putting his own life or humanity back together again. Kawaki's compassion would only grow as he would spend more time in the village. Boruto was present when Naruto was fighting Delta. Despite Naruto holding back, he was overwhelming Delta at points and even tanking some of her critical attacks. At some point, Delta decides to use Himawari, a little girl, as bait to get a free hit on Naruto. Kawaki decides to risk it all and protect them, ruining Delta's opportunity to kill Naruto. Kawaki did not have to protect them. He could have ran away. He saw a father willing to risk it all to protect his child, something neither his father nor Jigen would have done in the same position. They would have favored self-preservation. Kawaki protected an image of something he never had but always desired. Also keep in mind, Kawaki had no idea he would be able to withstand Delta's attack. He could have died, and I think this was the turning point for the Uzumakis, including Boruto, in accepting Kawaki as part of their family. And they would risk it all to prevent Isshiki in placing a second karma seal on Kawaki. Despite knowing the likelihood of coming out of the fight alive was extremely low, Boruto went along with Naruto and Sasuke, willing to die for the village to save not only Kawaki, but the entire world. It was a fight of loss. No one came out of that fight unscathed. Sasuke and Naruto were depowered, Isshiki lost his life, and Kawaki lost his karma seal. After Ishiki's death, Momoshiki saw the perfect opportunity to weaken Sasuke and take Kawaki away to be eaten by the Ten Tails, since he was still an Otsutsuki genetically speaking. Kawaki was desperate to wake Boruto up, and he forced Momoshiki's hand by making him absorb chakra to wake Boruto up. Kawaki literally set himself on fire to save Boruto, acknowledging him in return as a brother. This is another instance of Kawaki risking it all to save Boruto's family. Boruto got to see the good in Kawaki once again. Thanks to all of their efforts, including Boruto, Kawaki was finally free. But the problems didn't stop, as Boruto still had to deal with Momoshiki overriding Boruto's DNA with the intent to reincarnate into him. While Kawaki was free, the same circumstances to get rid of the karma could not be applied to Boruto, since he was Momoshiki's one and only vessel. Then Kawaki made it clear to Boruto that they were no match for Code with the strength they had at the time, that even the current Naruto and Sasuke wouldn't be able to hold him off. Kawaki felt very empty without his karma seal. He was willing to go through the shinobi training to be able to solve the problems around him, only realizing the shinobi's way of going about problems was not enough for him. Boruto understood his frustration and even tried to tell Kawaki to work with his friends. Yes, the shinobi's path to power is a longer route to go, but only the most dedicated will reap the benefits of it. Look at characters like Might Guy. He didn't have a tailed beast, ocular jutsu, or any other Kekkei Genkai, but through his hard work over many years, he was able to compete with the most powerful shinobi, like Hisame of the Seven Ninja Swordsmen and freaking Madara Uchiha. Unfortunately, Amato also witnessed Kawaki's frustration and planted the idea of returning Kawaki's karma seal in his head. Sure, the karma would make Kawaki stronger, but it would also send him down a darker path. He would become the version of Kawaki that we saw in his first appearance when he killed Garo. Kawaki was desperate to save both Naruto and Boruto and protect the village, which Boruto acknowledged. Kawaki even went as far with coming up with the idea of Boruto implanting his own karma on Code so that he would be able to reincarnate. Once again showing he did care about Boruto and presented him with an idea that Boruto himself didn't even think about. If Boruto has access to Otsutsuki power, then theoretically speaking, he could also create a vessel of his own and save himself. Kawaki also went as far as leaving the village while hiding his chakra signature in order to confront Code directly. Kawaki was the one who killed Isshiki after all, so if anyone should suffer, it should be him. Kawaki was willing to sacrifice himself yet again to protect the village. Was this a smart idea? No, but he was very desperate at this point. Amato also gave Boruto drugs to suppress Momoshiki, so when Boruto encountered Code in order to protect Kawaki, he was able to use Momoshiki's full power while also maintaining his own consciousness. The issue was that this was only temporary, as the drugs did nothing to really stop Momoshiki from hijacking Boruto's mind. Momoshiki attacked Kawaki and eventually teamed up with Code in an attempt to kill Naruto. Kawaki gave into his darker self and reawakened his karma seal. If Naruto and Boruto were capable of stopping Momoshiki and Code, Kawaki may have renounced the karma seal forever. Kawaki finally had the power to solve things his way, but at the price of his soul. Boruto granted Kawaki permission to kill him, realizing he was a threat to everyone around him. Boruto trusted Kawaki to carry this burden. Kawaki likely would have went through with killing Boruto anyway, but the fact still stands that Boruto trusted him to do this. Although Kawaki's intentions were purely selfish, he ironically ended up saving Boruto's life. Kawaki once again forced Momoshiki's hand, making Momoshiki use the remaining 20% of the extraction process to repair Boruto's damaged organs, meaning that he can never reincarnate. If Kawaki had never done this, then by the time Blue Vortex came around, Boruto would have ceased to exist and Momoshiki would have won. Boruto would make his biggest mistake. Now that Momoshiki couldn't reincarnate in him anymore, he thought he was truly free, which ultimately ended up costing him everything. He stopped taking Amato's pills because he felt he didn't need them anymore, and basically acted like everything was alright. Boruto didn't even tell anyone that he was able to communicate with Momoshiki. Kawaki was the one who ended up finding out, which sent him spiraling out of control. The moment Kawaki found out that Boruto was communicating with Momoshiki and didn't tell anyone was the moment he lost Kawaki's trust. Kawaki stopped viewing Boruto as Boruto, but rather viewed Boruto as Momoshiki Otsutsuki. What Kawaki would do next would be unforgivable by most. He sealed away his adoptive parents after proclaiming he was going to kill their biological son. He then proceeds to hunt down Boruto and tries to kill him by hypocritically stating that it's because Boruto is an Otsutsuki. He also says he's never going to see his parents again. He then proceeds to attempt to murder Sarada, who was just trying to de-escalate the situation, only for Boruto to save her at the cost of his own eye. He escapes from the village only for Ada to find him. She unconsciously casts omnipotence, and instead of taking any accountability, he decides to lie to everyone and say that Boruto killed Naruto. This was the ultimate betrayal. Yes, he risked everything to save Boruto, but the moment things got tough, he betrayed and abandoned him. Boruto at this point should have wanted Kawaki dead more than anything, and I think if omnipotence took place a lot earlier in Boruto's story, that might have been the case. But Boruto has matured a lot throughout his life. He went from a kid who was always angry that his father wasn't home, despite having a loving family, to a kid who understood his father's story and sacrifices. And for the first time, Boruto was no longer the kid who had it all. Boruto finally states that he understands Kawaki. He knows what it's like to have next to no one in his corner. Despite growing up as polar opposites, omnipotence gave each person a perspective on the other's life in a way they could have never had otherwise. Boruto even understood why Kawaki did the things he did. Kawaki was tortured by Jigen often, and the idea of a being like Jigen existing in the world sent Kawaki over the edge. To Kawaki, Momoshiki and Jigen are no different. They are fundamentally the same, and they both must be eliminated. Boruto acknowledged that Kawaki was right, and that he should have taken Momoshiki more seriously after their encounter with Code. And that's why he needs to stand on his own if things are ever to change. Moving to present day, Boruto has no hatred for Kawaki. He even says it was good to see him in Himawari again. Kawaki pushed Boruto into becoming the shinobi he always wanted to be. He pushed Boruto to levels beyond that of Code. Boruto doesn't want to kill Kawaki despite everything he has done, but rather wants to settle the score and save his brother. I think Boruto has been watching Kawaki in the village for quite some time now, through Kashin Koji's steam toes. Think about it. How would Boruto know that Code would attack the village? Unless he was watching everything from the beginning. The toads would have been linked to Koji and have a chakra signature very similar to Jiraiya, so they would go relatively undetected. Boruto knows Kawaki is flawed and sees the good in him. Yes, Kawaki wants to protect Naruto above all else, but he also protected the Leaf Village in Boruto and Naruto's absence, which is something he did not have to do. Some would say that Boruto should hate Kawaki for giving him his scar. Boruto only has the scar because he tried to protect Sarada. He may feel a certain degree responsible for taking Sasuke's eye, and that this was his karma for that. Some would also say that Boruto should be mad at Kawaki for sealing away his parents. Boruto likely already has a plan to get them back, and they're safe anyway. And some would say Boruto should be mad about omnipotence. I would disagree with that notion as well. Ada accidentally casted it, and Kawaki took advantage of it. However, Boruto understands that Kawaki created the current world because of his traumatic past, and that he was desperate and alone because no one else took the threat of Momoshiki as seriously as he did, because Boruto was loved by everyone. I think Boruto's plan in taking down Kawaki was hinted by Amato of all people. Amato used the analogy of Kawaki's body being a house for Isshiki's power, and that the karma is the key for entering that house. Amato implanted the karma on Kawaki when he gave Kawaki his new prosthetic arm created from his own cells. We know the karma is Kawaki's primary power source. He shoots out karma blasts, he has access to space-time ninjutsu, and can absorb ninjutsu. It also amplifies his existing strength in ninjutsu. If you take away that key, or rather that prosthetic arm, then theoretically, Kawaki should lose most of his abilities, and Boruto knows Kawaki's arm can be removed. He would still have shadow clones and fire style, but since he's not a trained shinobi, it wouldn't be much against Boruto, who is way more seasoned. I also think he would still have Isshiki's dojutsu even without the karma, since his body is composed of 80% of Isshiki's DNA after all. And we have actually seen Kawaki use Sukuna Hikona and Daikoku Ten without his karma being present. Once Boruto takes away Kawaki's arm, he could easily subdue him and cast a basic genjutsu and force Kawaki to use Daikoku Ten and release Naruto and Hinata. Boruto doesn't use his karma anymore because he knows he cannot rely on that power and needs to stand up on his own 2 feet. If Kawaki renounces karma by not using his prosthetic arm anymore, then he will be making the choice of taking a different path instead, I believe as a shinobi. Boruto and Kawaki cannot truly get rid of their karma seals because it will always be something they could have access to at any given moment. However, it symbolizes them both moving past their trauma and pain, and they essentially keeping their vows to each other that they will one day get rid of it. But will the brothers reach a peaceful conclusion? Only time will tell.